Islam. Praise Allah. Happy Thursday, April 30th, 2026. Yesterday I said it was the 28th or something. I had my days wrong. My bad, y'all. But praise Allah, welcome each and every one of you. Praise Allah, honors Prophet, honors each and every one of you. Today, we're going to be reading from chapter 14, the ministry of John the Harbinger. I'm going to be giving my reading of the chapter and also my understanding from the Holy Quran, the More Science of America, divinely prepared by no prophet Drew Ali, by the guy and his father, God of Allah, great God of the universe, to redeem man from a sinful and fallen stage of man back to highest plane life with his father, God, Allah. Now, again, if you've been here before, you know the format. But if you haven't been here before, what I do, I read the chapter and then I get my understanding on the chapter. So today, we're going to be reading from chapter 14, the ministry of John the Harbinger. Okay. And again, high honors to the divine Prophet Nudra Ali, founder of More Science to America. The prophet in these days, born in North Carolina in the year 1886 AD. He is a Moorish American because he is in the Moroccans, born in America. I'm a Moorish American, descendant of Moroccans, born in America. If you call yourselves names according, Black, Negro, Colored, Ethiopia, etc., you too, according to the Prophet Nudra Ali, are Moorish American also. Next, I'd like to give honors to the Sultan Abdul Izzi ibn Saud, who, when this pamphlet came out in 1927, he was the head of the holy city of Mecca. His descendants today are still holding the holy city of Mecca. His last name, Saud, that is indeed related to Saudi, how you hear Saudi Arabia. So that is indeed related to him. So honors to that brother, honors to divine prophet. And again, we'll be reading. Start the reading. Chapter 14, the ministry of John the Harbinger. John the Harbinger returns to Hebron, lives as a hermit in the wilds, visits Jerusalem and speaks to the people. It came to pass when John, the son of Zacharias and Elizabeth, had finished all his studies in the Egyptian schools, he returned to Hebron, where he abode for certain days. And then he sought the wilderness and made his home in David's cave. Many years before, he was instructed by the Egyptian sages. Some people call him the hermit of Engedi. Others said he is the wild man of the hills. He clothed himself with skins of the beasts. His food was carobs, honey, nuts, and fruit. When John was 30 years of age, he went into Jerusalem, and in a marketplace he sat in silence 7 days. The common people and the priests, the scribes and the Pharisees came out in multitudes to see the silent hermit of the hills, but none were bold enough to ask him who he was. But when his silent past was done, he stood forth in the midst of all and said, "Behold, the king has come. The prophets told of him. The wise men long have looked for him. Prepare, O Israel, prepare to meet your king." And that was all he said. And then he disappeared, and no one knew where he had gone. And there was great unrest through all Jerusalem. The rulers heard the story of the hermit of the hills, and they sent couriers forth to talk with him that they might know about the coming king, but they could find him not. And after certain days he came again into the marketplace, and all the city came to hear him speak. He said, "Be not disturbed, you rulers of the state. The coming king is no antagonist. He seeks no place on earthly throne. The eyes of men shall see it not, and none can enter but the pure in heart. Prepare, O Israel, prepare to meet your king." Again, the hermit disappeared. The people strove to follow him, but he drove veil around about his form, and men could see him not. Jewish feast day came. Jerusalem was filled with Jews and proselytes from every part of Palestine, and John stood in the temple court and said, "Prepare, O Israel, prepare to meet your king." So you have lived in sin, the poor cry in your streets, and you regard them not. Your neighbors, who are they? You have defrauded friends and foes alike. You worship Allah of voice and lip. Your hearts are far away and set on gold. Your priests have bound upon the people burdens far too great to bear. They live in ease upon the hard-earned wages of the poor. Your lawyers, doctors, scribes are useless cumberers of the ground. There are but tumors on the body of the state. They toil not, neither do they spin, yet they consume the profits of your marts of trade. Your rulers are adulterers, extortioners, and thieves, regarding not the rights of men. And robbers ply their calling in the sacred hills. The holy temple you have sold to thieves. Their dens are in the sacred places set apart for prayer. Hear, hear, you people of Jerusalem. Reform. Turn from your evil ways, or Allah will turn from you, and heathen from afar will come, and what is left of all your honor and your fame will pass in one short hour. Prepare, Jerusalem, prepare to meet your king. He said no more. He left the court, and no one saw him go. The priests, the doctors, and the scribes were all enraged. They sought for John, intent to do him harm. They found him not. Praise be to Allah, Ha'an's prophet. Again, now it's chapter 14, the ministry of John the Harbinger. John the Harbinger returns to Hebron, lives as a hermit in the wilds, visits Jerusalem and speaks to the people. Praise be to Allah. Now we get into that title, the ministry of John the Harbinger. So we get into the ministry of him, his teaching. Tells us he comes back to Hebron and he lives as a hermit in the wilds. And then he visits Jerusalem and he speaks to the people. Line instruction 1, it says, it came to pass when John, the son of Zacharias and Elizabeth, had finished all his studies in the Egyptian schools, he returned to Hebron, where he abode for certain days. And when we read about John in chapter 4, we learned that he was in the Egyptian schools and he wrought there and he overcame the lower self and he became a mastermind. So when he returned to Hebron at this point in time, Brother John was a mastermind. He had defeated his lower self. He was in his higher self. And it says, and then he sought the wilderness and made his home in David's cave. Many years before, he was instructed by Egyptian sages. So he sought the wilderness, he sought to be away from people, to be more one with Allah. And it says he made his home in David's cave. So King David had a cave. If you're familiar with the Old Testament, this was the cave that he was in, I believe, when he was hiding from Saul. When King Saul was trying to kill David because he was worried about David becoming king. So David was hiding out in this cave. And it says, where many years before he was instructed by Egyptian sages. So John returned back to where he was familiar. And it says, some people call him the hermit of Agindi, and others said he is the wild man of the hills. So he had two different names depending on who you talk to. Some people called him hermit of Agindi, and others said he's the wild man of the hills. It says he clothed himself with skins of the beasts. His food was carobs, honey, nuts, and fruit. Now, this is one thing now, I kind of want to get into a little bit. The part he clothed himself with skins of the beast. It doesn't say necessarily how he got these skins of the beast. Maybe he did kill them, or maybe he had already had them, or maybe he came across some dead animals and skinned them. It doesn't necessarily say, or maybe even bought them from some people, some hunters or whatever. So that was his clothes. But then his food, though, John being a symbol of purity, his food was carobs, honey, nuts, and fruit. Carobs is like a fruit or a type of vegetable. Then honey is obviously, what honey is, come from bees. Nuts, what nuts are, and fruits, what fruits are. So according to this description of John's diet, the symbol of purity, he was a vegetarian. We can't say he was a vegan according to today's standards because he ate honey, but he was a vegetarian. and John being a symbol of purity, him not drinking alcohol, and him being a vegetarian. Them two things was crucial for me in my understanding, and decisions I've been making in my life. I've been a vegetarian a lot longer than I haven't drank no alcohol, so but this though was very important to me in my decision to become vegetarian. Because I wanted to follow the example that John and Jesus was setting, I want to know how to be faster, how to have my ethers, be sped up. And I was like, hey, the symbol of purity, if I'm trying to be pure in life and this is his diet, then that tells me my diet, if I want to be pure in life, should be close to John's, a vegetarian. So that was crucial to me. I wanted to share that with y'all for y'all information. Take it how you will. Praise be to Allah. It says, when John was 30 years of age, he went into Jerusalem, and in marketplace he sat in silence 7 days. So when he was 30, he went into Jerusalem and he meditated, sat in silence 7 days. The common people and priests, the scribes and the Pharisees came out of multitudes to see the silent hermit of the hills, but no one bold enough to ask him who he was. So nobody asked him, though. They came and looked at him, but nobody asked him. Then said, but when the silent pass was done, he stood forth in the midst of all and said, behold, the king is come. The priest told of him, the wise man long have looked for him. Prepare, O Israel, prepare to meet your king. So he just said, the king is coming. What king was he talking about? He's talking about Jesus, in this instance. He talked about the prophets told of him. The wise men long have looked for him. So he's letting them know, this is prophecy coming along. He said, prepare, O Israel, prepare to meet your king. And the reason he said Israel is because Brother Jesus is of the house of David, of King David. So according to bloodline, Jesus was the legitimate king of Israel according to bloodline. The Romans had all the physical power and all that. But according to the bloodline, it was Jesus who was, he was the king of Israel. Well, he was destined to be the king of Israel according to his bloodline, him coming from King David. And it says, and that was all he said, and then he disappeared, and no one knew where he had gone. So that was all John said up after, being there for 7 days. That's all he said. Then he disappeared, and no one knew where he went. It says, and there was great unrest through all Jerusalem. The rulers heard the story of the hermit of the hills, so he got everybody wound up. The rulers heard, the rulers, that's like somebody consider themselves kings, They heard the story of the hermit of the hills. It says, so they sent couriers forth to talk with him, that they might know about the coming king, but they could find him not. So they sent people to try and find John so that they could get more information about the coming king, but they couldn't find him. It doesn't say their intentions, behind why they wanted to talk to him about this. I mean, probably just get some more information at the base level, of course, but their deeper intentions is not said. It says, and after certain days, he came again into the marketplace, and all the city came to hear him speak. He said, be not disturbed, you rulers of the state. The coming king is no antagonist. He seeks no place on earthly throne. The eyes of men shall see it not, and none can enter but the pure in heart. Prepare, O Israel, prepare to meet your king. So Brother John is sitting there saying, he not concerned with the earthly throne. He seeks no place on the earthly throne. He doesn't want to be on paper per se, the king or whatever. And we think about Jesus, the kingdom of a law and man, of Emmanuel, So the coming king, the one to teach the people that Allah is within. That's why I said, be not disturbed, you rulers of the state, because what Jesus was coming to teach the people wasn't going to cause them to uprise and try to seek blood and to kill. Jesus don't teach that. He was coming to teach people to recognize their own greatness within. But that's the thing, carnal men, most time they don't want other people to shine. They want to keep other people down so that they look greater than everybody else. It's the lower self, the vanity, that causes men to think like that. And that's what John came to tell him, like, hey, he not coming for that. Don't even be disturbed. He no antagonist. He's not here to cause problems with y'all. He said the eyes of men shall see it not, and none can enter but the pure in heart. So he's saying, it ain't going to be nothing that we can see physically. And, you got to be pure in heart to enter. And he said, prepare, O Israel, prepare to meet your king. So the Israelites is a people of God historically. The Israelites are the Israelites because they was chosen by God to know God because of the actions of one of their forefathers, Jacob. And that's why, so he was calling on the Israelites to return back to your own. Come back to your own teachings. Don't be up underneath the teachings of somebody else necessarily. Come back to your own teachings. Meet your king, talking about Jesus, and what he's going to be teaching. That what should rule over their lives in essence. And it says again, the hermit disappeared. The people strove to follow him, but he drew a veil about his form and men could see him not. So he has some type of invisibility powers, or he has some type of cape or something, and he was able to, disappear. He's able to escape, and no doubt that was something that he learned from the Egyptian schools and from him having a higher vibration, him being so sublime. He was able to do that, had them powers. Said Jewish feast they came. Jerusalem was filled with Jews and proselytes from every part of Palestine, and John stood in the temple court and said, prepare, O Israel, prepare to meet your king. So you have lived in sin, the poor cry in streets, and you can guard them not. Your neighbors, who are they? You have defrauded friends and foes alike. As far as I keep on going. So it seems some time has passed in between these events. It's kind of like John was coming to light. Okay, here's your first warning. The first warning was, or the first message was when he sat in silence for 7 days and then he spoke and then he disappeared. Then he came back again and he spoke the second message. Then he disappeared. And then his third time he came back and he's like, okay, prepare, O Israel, prepare to meet your king. And he said, so you have lived in sin, the poor cry in streets and you guard them not. So it's almost like John put them on a test period. He's watching them. How would they start reacting up after I tell them that the king is coming? And it seemed like they kind of just disregarded it. He said, your neighbors, who are they? You have defrauded friends and foes alike. You worship Allah of voice and lip. Your hearts are far away and set on gold. So he's saying, the poor crying in the streets. You've been living in sin. Your neighbors, you don't know who they are. Talking about their physical neighbors and then even their neighbors, different countries. He said you had defrauded friends and foes alike. So they was tricking everybody. It didn't matter if you was their friend or their foe. They was going to be trying to pull tricks on you. Get ahead of you, to fraud you, whatever. He said you worship Allah of voice and lip. Your hearts are far away and set on gold. So they were saying all this stuff about Allah. Oh, we love Allah. Oh, we love this. But their hearts was far away and it was set on gold. So they were saying, oh, we love Allah and hope Allah take care of the poor. But they had the gold themselves. The people who was saying they worship Allah had the gold themselves and they wasn't using it to feed the poor. Prophet continues on and says, your priests are bound upon the people, burdens far too great to bear. They live in ease upon the hard-earned wages of the poor. So the priests had put up on the people, got to donate this much, you got to donate that much, you got to do this, you got to do that. And they sitting there getting all the work, all the money from the poor. The poor got to go out, work the fields, do clean the restroom areas, build buildings, do all this hard work. And all the priests is doing is sitting there. They come to the temple, the synagogue, or whatever they calling it, on the holy day. The priest say a few words. say, oh, Allah gonna bless you. You keep on working hard, etc. And they not doing nothing for them. The priest had the money to start a little fund to feed them, make sure they had enough clothes, water. But the priest wasn't doing that. They was saving up all the poor people money. So your lawyers, doctors, scribes are useless cumberers of the ground. They are but tumors on the body of the state. They toil not, neither do they spin, yet they consume the profits of your marts of trade. So John was saying, the lawyers, doctors, scribes, they just useless, cumberers of the ground. They're but tumors on the body of the state. They not doing nothing for the people. If anything, they harming the people, because if you trying to work and you got a tumor up on your arm or something, or your joint, you can't move that joint as easy because you got this big old mass there. So it's actually slowing progress down. And it says, they toil not. So he's saying they don't work, neither do they spend. They don't create nothing. Yet they consume the profits of your march of trade. So, they had taxes on the people. So the working man who makes nails or makes horseshoes or put spice blends together or make clothes, all the trade, the artisans building things with their hands, they was getting taxed on that. Knowing who's the tax going to? The lawyers, doctors, scribes, and they wasn't doing nothing in the progress of making the thing, but yet they was still getting paid from it. John continues on and he says, your rulers are adulterers, extortioners, and thieves, regard not the rights of man. So John had observed these people. He probably had a veil on himself. He probably was parading as some, foreign ruler or something. Who knows? But John had the information on these people. And he's like, look, this is what they doing. Adulterers, extortioners, and thieves, regard not the rights of man. That's all self-explanatory. Saying robbers ply their calling in the sacred hills. The holy temple you have sold to thieves. Their dens are in the sacred places set apart for prayer. So he letting them know. He letting the common people know where all these people was at, what they doing. Said the holy temple you have sold to thieves. So he letting them know, y'all have sold it to thieves. That they was still a part of it too, because they allowed it to happen. Said their dens are in the sacred place set apart for prayer. So he let them know where they was all at. He said, here, you people of Jerusalem. So he's calling on the people of Jerusalem. He said, reform. So change their ways. He said, turn from your evil ways or Allah will turn from you. So he talking about everybody though. He said, everybody turn from your evil ways or Allah will turn from you. And you think about that in your personal life. When you do something wrong, you don't feel guided by Allah, And as long as you keep on doing them wrong things, you're not really going to feel guided by Allah. You'll feel Allah calling you. But in terms of being guided by Allah, you probably won't feel that. You may, Allah, I'm not going to say what Allah will and won't do. Allah will guide whoever he want. Whoever Allah want to guide, Allah will guide. But in terms of what's been given to us, our teachings from the prophets, we know that we got to walk the path that Allah set before us. And the path that Allah set before us is love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is merciful and will grab us by the hand if we walk in down that path of hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms. But the longer we walk down that path, John is saying it here. He said, reform, turn from your evil ways, or Allah will turn from you. So if you don't turn from your evil ways, Allah will turn from you. And heathen from afar will come, and what is left of all your honor and your fame will pass in one short hour. Now he's talking to people of Jerusalem, but we think about that ourselves in our minds. If we don't walk on the path of Allah, of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, we will get berated by all the cares of the world. hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms. You'll go on social media, you'll doom scroll all day. You'll see all this bad news. You'll hear all this bad news. Bad things will start to happen to you because you're doing bad things. It all come back to you. And that's them heathen from afar will come. It says, what is left, all your honor and fame will pass in one short hour. So that's a warning to us in this modern day. Work and be on the path of Allah, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Don't continue down that path of hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, stuff, and everything that harms, because eventually heathen from afar will come. And what is left, all your honor and your fame will pass in one short hour. Prophet let us know, John said, prepare. Jerusalem, prepare to meet your king. So he calling on them again, prepare. Then it continues on, he said no more. He left the court and no one saw him go. The priests, the doctors, and the scribes were all enraged. They sought for John, intent to do him harm. They found him not. So, it let you know. He called them on them, prepare. Jerusalem, prepare to meet your king. So he's still telling them, prepare. He's still giving them a chance. You're not dooming them, saying, oh, y'all are doomed. He's just saying, hey, come on, prepare. Get right. Come on, y'all, get right. And then he bounced. He got up out of there. And it said the priests, the doctors, and the scribes were all enraged. It's because, carnal men want not the light. And when somebody doing dirt and they get the light shined on them and they get exposed with all that dirt on their face, most of the time they mad. That's the human reaction. If you ever got caught up in a lie, somebody exposed you and you get caught up in a lie, like you embarrassed and you also mad. Or if you doing bad, like a wrong thing, and somebody call you out that you doing wrong, a lot of people get mad. That's that lower self, that hatred that bubble up, like, why this person calling me out? Like, they be mad. And they sought for John, intent to do him harm. So they was trying to harm John for calling him out. But they couldn't find him. And why couldn't they find him? Because, Allah had protected John. John had divine protection from Allah. Allah is our protector, our guide, and our salvation by night and by day through our holy prophet. John knew that. So they couldn't find John. John's mission was to tell people, hey, get ready for our brother Jesus. Change our ways up. Reform. Letting us know that it was an inner work that we was going to have to take care of more than an outer work. And he called on them to get ready. So praise be to Allah, because, you think about that in today's world, and not a lot has changed, Every time a prophet come around, it's pretty much the same situation. People done got so far away from the path of Allah. The rulers doing this and that. The poor people, is doing this and that. So the foreigners be having to come and let the people know. The forerunner Prophet Nuh Ali was Brother Marcus Garvey. And if you know anything about Brother Marcus Garvey, he was getting the so-called black people, the Asiatics Moorish descent, the so-called black people, to wake up, to start being more unified, to start thinking about opening up businesses, to become more one with each other. And he was ahead of the Prophet Nuh Ali. Then Prophet Nuh Ali came, he said, hey, we Moorish, this our flag, this is what we moving underneath. We don't need to move up underneath these fake flags that they give us. We don't need to move up underneath that name, so-called Negro, black, or color. That's the European man word that he called our forefathers when he put us into slavery. And that's the sealing of that word. That word, them words have a sealing. And the sealing was slave. That was it. Like, it wasn't no floor for us to build off of. It was a ceiling. They said, you a Negro, you a black, you a color, you Ethiopian, that's all you ever gonna be. This is a word of my creation. And my creation is only gonna go this high. So that's what the prophet came to let us know. We not that. We got a divine name from Allah. We got a divine lineage from Allah. We Moorish. We send the Moroccans and born in America. And you know about Morocco, then how it goes into Mali. How Mali is from, all related to that. Prophet tell us we from Northwest and Southwest Africa, was my name from Moabites, Moroccans. So letting us know we Moabites from Northwestern and Southwestern Africa. So all of that history that's in Northwestern and Southwestern Africa, especially up after 700 AD, like when you hear about the Moors who went into Spain and took over Spain, and then you hear about Mansa Musa, you hear about the kings of Ghana, you hear about Askia Muhammad, you hear about Sonny Ali Burr, you hear about all these great rulers. Them is our forefathers. It's on Moulay Ishmael. He was from Morocco. They say he had over 1,000 children, and he was just in the late 1700s. He had over 1,000 children in the late 1700s, and then ain't no telling how many children Mansa Musa had. He's the richest man ever lived. He went all across Africa when he went to Mecca. Every town that he went to, he built a mosque every Friday. Whatever city he stopped in on Friday, they got a mosque built. All across Africa. So I ain't no telling how many children he had. And then even, you got Sultan Ahmed Mansour of Morocco. He was a little bit early before Sultan Moulay Ishmael. He had a lot of children. So our lineage is heavy. Our lineage, we had slaves. Like, that's how deep it is. Like, we wasn't slaves. We had slaves. I'm not trying to glorify it or anything like that, but I'm just trying to let you know the true paradigm, the true history, what was going on. Like, it was so tough that the European couldn't even live in Spain underneath a certain point. Like, he had to go so far up north. Or the European couldn't even live like in southern Italy and stuff like that, because if he did, we was going there and taking them as slaves, etc. So it was European slaves we had. We had other Africans as slaves. And we didn't call ourselves the name that we called the slaves. We had our own name. So that's the importance of naming, because when you hear words, they trigger something in you. And if you don't know where that word is really from, you're always going to be operating according to that word, subconsciously and consciously. So that's what, the forerunner, the Prophet Nur Ali came to tell us, about ourselves, let us know who we really was. Just like knowing, as for Brother Marcus Garvey, he was calling on all them people to unite. All the people who thought they was so-called black, he wanted them to unite, to become one, to be in one location, to be a one mind state. So when Prophet Nur Ali came and said, hey, look, we is this. Now, this, and everybody was already ready. So praise be to Allah. And again, that's what John is doing here. He letting people know, get ready to meet Jesus so he could teach y'all. And praise be to Allah. Again, I'd like to give honors to y'all. Honors to each and every one of y'all. Praise be to Allah. I'm not trying to, say, I'm not trying to change your mind, I guess. I'm just letting you know what it is that I learned, things that you could research for yourself and figure out if they true or not. You don't have to rely on my word. Everything that the prophet did, he left it up in the Holy Quran and more signs to America for us to study. And when we study it, we get our understanding and it open up the key, Just put it like this, your forefather, if you claim it, is Mansa Musa. But if you go underneath the European man word and say you're black, colored, Ethiopia, Negro, etc., you don't claim it. Not truly. Because what would Mansa Musa look like? If Mansa Musa pulled up to you and said, hey, what's your name? Where you from? Who is you? And you tell him black? That's what the European man called me? What would Mansa Musa tell you? It's that simple. Don't take it. Don't put my face on it. Don't put me into it. Go to the land of fleshless things and go think about that. Go figure out what the richest man that ever lived would think about you not claiming who you is and using the European man name for yourself instead of his name. Think about that. Think about if you got into a fight at the park and the person beat you up, and then you go back home to your parents. The person beat you up and they give you a different name. You know, the person beat you up. They say, oh no, your name is this now. And then you go back home and you tell your parents that your name is that now. That's another way to put it. So just think about that. I know it's not what you used to hearing, because it's not going to be broadcasted to you unless you come to the prophet. Nobody's going to tell you that, because as soon as you learn that, it take you out their game for real. You're not living in their game no more. You're not bound by the rules no more that they done said for that. That's what it does to you. You know, you still got to deal with hate. Moorish hate. Yeah, Moorish hate is real. You know, people really hate on you because you Asiatic or Moorish descent. That's real. But when you say you black, they be like, oh, that's not even a real thing. You know, that's a made up word that we made up for y'all. But once you start and then you say, hey, you doing Moorish hate right now. You hating on me because I'm Moorish. Just how people hate on people because they Jewish. People can hate on you because you're Moorish. Hey, it is what it is. I love everybody. Telling the truth here. All the seekers of love, truth, peace, freedom, justice will agree. And them is the people that I'm trying to reach. So again, I give honors to y'all. I'm not disregarding how you live, what you call yourself. But I'm just letting you know what the prophet is, what the prophet done told us, who we is, and some of the great forefathers that we have, and the lineage and the respect that we owe to them over any European man, like in regards to who we are. I'm an American. I'm a Moorish American, but America ain't based on nationality. America is a government. That's like a government name. No, that's a government name. That's my government. Like, so I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about straight up. This another race of people. This another, group of people that said that and called you that instead of you going by what your father called you. This other man came and said, no, your name is this. That's what the prophet is correcting. And any man that stands against that, that's from that side, I mean, you ask him how he will feel if that happened to him or his, children. They're not going to want that. So everybody work in love, truth, peace, freedom, justice. Because again, we still all one people. And all one people got to know who they are in order to keep on progressing. So praise be to Allah, honors each and every one of y'all. Y'all have a good rest of y'all Thursday. I won't be back with a video tomorrow. Not a long one, but I'll work on some shorts. Start getting some shorts out there for y'all tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday. Then we'll be back on it on Monday. So again, y'all have a good, blessed weekend. Praise be to Allah. Happy Holy Day tomorrow. Love to y'all all. Peace.